Hello my colouring friends, I'm Liv and this is Colouring with Liv, and in this video I'll be showing how I coloured these flowers in Small Victories by Johanna Basford. So I have the French copy, but you can grab your copy of Small Victories and colour along with me. So I'm starting off with Violet in 138. So I grabbed 3 colours from my box of Polychromos pencils and I didn't swatch them out this time. So it seemed a little bit random, but actually purposeful when I chose those 3 colours, so that I would make sure that I would just stick to those colours. So the colours that I initially chose were Mauve in 249, Violet in 138 and White in 101, because I was thinking when I was doing my leaves that Ivory seemed to work well with the greens that I was using for the leaves. So I thought maybe White would work as a highlight. It worked well as more of like a resist technique where you can add veins to the petals, but it wasn't really giving me the colour that I needed for that highlight. So then I was thinking, well, I didn't really want to use a pink, but I felt like I needed to use some kind of pink to brighten it up for the highlight. And so the lightest purplish pink in the box was 119. So then my 3 colours would be Mauve, Violet and light magenta. So that's 249, 138 and 119. And then after that, if I want to add a few more colours because I feel like it's not exactly right, I feel like if it needs a little bit of more darkness or more vibrancy, then maybe I'll add another colour or 2 in with that. But those are my 3 initial colours for my shadow, mid and highlight. So with this one I started with my mid colour. Sometimes I do start with my shadow colour, but I didn't want it to be too dark. But because I felt like it needed a bit more contrast, that's why I decided to use blue violet just on the bottom of the stems of the flowers. And blue violet is in 137. And I also later on used a little bit of 134 crimson. So crimson is almost like a purplish pink. It's like the purple version of fuchsia, I guess, just so that I could give it a little bit more vibrancy to the flower, because I haven't really worked that much with purples, but that's what I came up with here. And I felt like maybe I should have swatched it out beforehand, but sometimes I do like to just experiment on the colouring page straight away itself. So that's what I was doing here. And then for the yellow flowers, I was using most of the colours that I was using for the teapot, for the gold brass colour. So when I was doing the teapot, I started off more with my darker colours, and I used a couple of more darker colours for the kind of gold brass colour. But for the yellow flowers, I started off more with the lighter colours. And because I wasn't sure of what colours to use, how the colour combos would work together, I think that's why this took me a little bit longer than it should have done, just because I wasn't sure. That's why I was doing all these light layers and and so on. So I noticed on Alice's Kit and Clowder class where she was talking about flowers, and she would leave like a little bit of a white highlight. So I had that in mind when I was doing my flowers. I tried to make the central bit more darker so you would have that highlight on the edge of the flower. And I was also referring to Kira's version at A Pictured Purpose, and I had a look how she did her yellow flowers, and she used some browns in the middle of those tulips, or at least I think they're tulips. So that's what I was doing here. But as I was going to add some more highlights later on using Posca, a white Posca pen and a white Pitt pen, that kind of took away from the black lines. So you kind of almost need to have more of a darker edge. So that's why I was trying to lift up those browns here. And I almost felt like I could have coloured the purple flowers more up to the edge with more colour. But I guess it was a little bit difficult to colour it in such a small space. But I tried to do the best that I could. So the colours that I used for the flowers were Ivory in 103, light chrome yellow in 106, Naples yellow in 185, burnt ochre in 187, and burnt sienna in 283. So I haven't really coloured that many flowers, I think. So I think this spring doing some more flowers will be a good challenge for me. At the moment I'm colouring a page in Rita Behrman's book, and there's a rose in there, and I felt like I got a bit stuck on choosing the colours that I did. So then I ended up trying to find some other help about colour combos. So I ended up going to Karen's My Colourful Country Life. She has some Polychromos colour combos for each colour. So it was helpful for me when I was choosing my leaf colours. And then when I got stuck on my roses in Rita Behrman's book, I ended up going to her page, but also my colouring friend from Cozy Colouring Escape mentioned Alice from Kit and Clowder, and she said that she has a chart up on her website as well. So I had a look of what Alice had suggested for her colour combos. So then I kind of decided on using an extra colour as a highlight and an extra colour as a shadow, and just kind of coloured over it and burnished it out, and that seemed to do the trick on fixing my flower. So now with the highlights, I am doing dots. So I didn't see that Kira from A Pictured Purpose did any dots on hers. She did more strokes. But I felt like if I just do some white lines, then maybe it will take away from all that work that I was trying to do on these flowers. So I felt like the dots would be a bit more gentle. But because I had already did one top of the yellow flower, I decided, okay, let's just colour them all in on the top and try and copy that version of what she was trying to do. And then I added a little bit of white Pitt pen because I find it's a little bit more translucent than the white Posca pen. So I was using the Pitt pen on the black lines. And I felt like if I want to add more opaqueness, then I can afterwards with my white Posca pen. And then when I was doing the glass effect, I felt like using the white Posca pen and the white Pitt pen together, it kind of creates the white Pitt pen is nice like a brush. It kind of blends out that acrylic that might be a bit blotchy, so it kind of smoothens everything out. So I thought that was quite a nice little find. So when I was doing my purple flowers and I was thinking of an extra colour, I was thinking of rainbow colours and the colour wheel and what's the next colour next door to purple. So next to purple you have either blue or pink. And I was a little bit hesitant when I was going to do this glass effect. I was thinking, should I go ahead and do it? I'm literally colouring right over all that work that I had done. But hey, I had this vision of a glass teapot with the tea leaves like sprouting into flowers. So once I have had tea like that, where you can see the little buds sprouting into little flowers, and I thought, okay, I have to do it. I have to give it a try. I'm already experimenting with different highlights, so let's try and add my own highlight here and make it feel a little bit like my own colouring. So I just tried to make that shape of the glass, and then also when you're doing a glass highlight, then you would have to have some kind of reflection as well. So I was just doing these strokes for reflection, but then I noticed when I had a little look on Google, they do have a little square or rectangular bit for a highlight, and I almost coloured that on top of my purple flower, but as I was sort of sketching it out with my hand over the top but not actually colouring it with any of the white paint, just sort of imagining where that rectangular shape would be, I felt like, okay, no, it's not going to go there. So I'll just place it in between those two purple flowers and that should work all right. So that particular highlight there, I was like, oh no, what did I do? But I liked it in the end. At first I was like, oh no, what did I do? But it turned out all right in the end. And yeah, and I think the whole like blue in the background as well helped with that darker blue up to the lighter point. It also helped that whole feeling of that reflection. And now moving on to the spoon. The gold of the spoon was actually a few different colours than the teapot, so that's why the gold looks a little bit different from the gold on the teapot, because I was trying to go from memory rather than just referring to my photo. So normally when I finish colouring, I take a little photo of my colouring pencils that I've been using, and so that I will use the same pencils again. But I was just being lazy and I thought, I remember what I used, and then after I coloured it I thought, it does look a little bit different. But I think I kind of got away with it here a little bit because the teapot and cups have the blue background, that cool background, whereas this is more of a warm background. So I guess you don't notice it as much because the purple flowers lay against that warm background. and I quite like this, and it made me think, oh, maybe if I colour some flowers, instead of adding like a cooler background, maybe I'll add a warmer background. So the flowers in the teapot is more like an underwater thing, and this is more like a antique or greenhouse kind of warm vibes going on, which I love. Looks more vintage, which is pretty cool. So for the spoon, I layered some of the brown around the edges, so that's why you kind of have that shadow effect, and then I added the green and purple and the yellow sunflower on top of that brown shadow that I created for the spoon, so it looks better in the end. For the sunflower, I just used the same kind of gold colours there, maybe a bit of terracotta, or was it burnt ochre? I can't remember, I'm sorry. And then again, we're just using the same colours for the flowers in the cups, just to create that uniformed look throughout. Here I feel like I didn't do the flowers as well as I could have. I could have coloured the darker colour in the middle rather than on the edges. I just sort of fell back into the way I would normally colour, and it almost looked like balloon flowers rather than more realistic flowers, because I was colouring around those edges. But I guess that's something that I just need to work on. I mean, it's not bad, it's fine, but I think it's just something that was brought to my attention that I probably need to work on doing more flowers this spring. So yeah. And at the moment I'm doing a colouring page that is part of a cat colouring club. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to join in on that. There's a different theme for every month. So if you like cats or colouring cats, or you want to colour cats, then you can join in on that. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video tutorial. Make sure to give it a like, a thumbs up and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Alright, take care, bye, thanks for watching.